listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Thank you for letting us be part of your day. We certainly do appreciate it. One little bit of warning tonight. It's a really nice night where we are. The windows are open, so if you hear sirens on the way by, it's probably an ambulance going to the hospital. We're kind of on that road. So if you hear that, it's okay. We're okay. Just be aware that that's what's going on. So my name is Jerry Mitchell. I'm sitting here with the recently repaired and updated Myra.
Hi, everyone.
Went to the doctor yesterday. You got some good news.
Yes.
You're allowed to start using your arm a little bit, yes. Finally. I won't make the joke I was going to make the joke about. It's time to go to work now, right?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. All right. Okay. A lot of times when I pick a topic, it's usually several days or a few weeks ahead of time, and I do some things, and then something sometimes comes up, and I don't get to use that. I have to put it off because something more important shows up, and, I just had the same thing happen this week. I knew what I wanted to talk about. I had it picked out since last week, and then something else showed up. But before I get to that, I want to be really quick. I watched an interesting video this morning. It was an interview with a lawyer from Saudi Arabia, and I am really glad they had the English subtitles because I don't speak a lick of Arabic, not a bit. But it was very, very good interview. There is people in the Arab world who actually tell the truth. And this guy was really good because he agrees with me on one aspect, and that is we need to take our traditions and our legends, and we need to kind of put them on the back burner to what is truth. He basically said on Saudi television that the Muslims have no ties to the area known as the Temple Mount. The Al-Aqsa Mosque was built 60 years after the Prophet died. In other words, that mosque wasn't there when Muhammad visited that area. In fact, the Prophet, when he was there, it was actually known as the Church of Elijah, and he had to go outside of the building to pray. What does that tell us about this early area known as Palestine? Francisco, it is really good to see you join us, brother. He's on chat.
Hi, Francisco.
If y'all want to join chat, you're more than welcome. It is open. We can tell who's chiming in. Always glad to hear, see people chime in and let us know you're listening. What I need to talk about tonight is something it's a subject I've kind of been avoiding a little bit. We have lessons in the Bible about different things and various things, and sometimes we like to try and justify it when we don't agree with it or when it doesn't suit our purposes. And here tonight we have another one, and that is that this topic of deception and sometimes outright lies, sometimes manipulation, and it all centers around something that we Christians like to do when it comes to spread the gospel. We don't like to be right up front with people all the time, do we? We don't want to present exactly our viewpoint right away because we're afraid we might scare somebody off. So we dance around the subject a little bit. And what that does is it gives everybody a bad name. Now, I have a few Jewish listeners, and they know where I'm coming from. And most of the time, what I try to do, if I'm going to have you read something out of the New Testament, I will go back and find where it is earlier in the Bible, but I can't do that with what I'm going to read tonight because this is well, I am going to do it in a little bit, but not right away. This is about Peter when it comes to him being less than truthful with some people. And this one's going to come out of the International Children's Bible because we really like that version. It's actually recorded twice. It's in Luke 22 and it's in Matthew 26. You're going to read the Matthew portion.
At that time, Peter was sitting in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You are with Jesus, that man from Galilee." But Peter said he was never with Jesus. He said this is to all the people there. Peter said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Then he left the courtyard. At the gate, another girl saw him. She said to the people there, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again, Peter said he was never with Jesus. Peter said, "I swear I don't know this man Jesus." A short time later, some people standing there went to Peter. They said, "We know you are one of those men who followed Jesus. We know this because of the way you talk." Then Peter began to curse. He said, "May a curse fall on me if I am not telling the truth. I don't know the man." After Peter said this, the rooster crowed. Then he remembered what Jesus told him. "Before the rooster crows, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Then Peter went outside and cried painfully.
Oh my. Now, it's pretty obvious in this passage, Peter was lying like a rug, right? I mean, he just... But there's a reason. There is a reason. He says, "I don't know him." Well, Peter was trying to save his own skin, right? He just knew that if he admitted to knowing Yeshua, that something bad was going to happen to him too. And, this wasn't about faith here. He had all the faith he needed to have. This was about Peter not wanting to die. I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to. But does this passage, and I need to say this carefully, does this passage give Christians today the authority to deceive others while they're practicing their faith? Absolutely not. We have Matthew 10:22, 24:9. They teach us that you're going to be persecuted. You're going to be blamed. Things might not always be, sunshine and roses, right?
Right.
Things may not always be easy. Things might not always, you're not always going to be on top of the world. It's going to get bad. And some of us have experienced this today in the United States and around the world. There are a lot of people, especially in the Messianic and Hebrew roots movements, who get persecuted by friends and family. And these are, good Christian people that are doing the persecuting here, because all of a sudden, the people who become involved with Messianic and Hebrew roots realize there's a little bit more to this faith than just, all I have to do is get my visa to heaven stamped and I'm good to go, right? They understand that it is a walk of faith. There are things you need to do. It's not just, I can say this prayer one time and be done. You lost the sound. I'm not sure why you lost the sound. I think everybody else has it out there. Yeah, it's I've still got it. So sorry. Check your settings. Peter's out there and he's saying, I don't know him. But that's not the same. That's not the same. What we're doing is we are trying to deceive people. Now, Moses writes in Numbers 23:19, God's not a man that he should lie, or the son of man that he should change his mind. Does he speak and not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? No, the Almighty, He consistently fulfills. How about Deuteronomy 7:9? Know that Jehovah your God is God, the faithful God who keeps His covenant of loving devotion for 1,000 generations of those who love Him and keep His commandments. Now that's the big rub when it comes to some people. They look around and they say, wait a minute, if I believe the Bible and the Bible says I should be following the Creator's instructions, and then they have all these other people that say, no, you don't have to do that anymore. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean I don't have to love my neighbors, myself anymore? That doesn't make any sense. So they're getting mixed messages, right? They're getting these mixed messages. Our Creator chooses to keep His word to us, and He expects us to keep our word and our promise to Him. Now, I've said many, many times on this show that being killed by the enemy is not the worst thing that can happen to you, right? The worst thing that can happen to you is for you to deny your faith. If Satan, the enemy, whatever you want to call him, if he is able to get you to deny your faith, he wins, right? Did you know that in 1 Timothy 5:8 it says, but if he provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he has denied the faith, and that's worse than an infidel. Now, an infidel in this context, I'm sorry, I got a lot to get through tonight. I'm trying to go a little fast here. An infidel in this context means an unbeliever. Denying your faith is worse than not believing at all to begin with. That might be hard for some people to understand. That might be really hard to understand. It's worse if you believe and then you back out of it than if you never believed at all. Because that's you giving up. Here's something else. Deception. Is it okay to deceive others? Why would it be okay to deceive others? Is there ever a time it's okay to deceive someone else about your faith? Well, we have some fairly recent examples of people who were deceiving others. Good, supposedly Christian people who were deceiving others, right? Let's talk about a group of these called faith healers. Now, there's a lot of them that have been caught over the years. Peter Popoff was using an earpiece to communicate with his staff as he was going through his show, I guess is what you would best describe this as. He's performing his show. He loses his earpiece, and then somebody else gets kind of skeptical, and they start doing some checking out, and they find out that as members come in and they're filling out their cards, the staff's going through these cards, and they're feeding him information. That's deception. He is trying to promote Christianity and faith healing, but he is lying in an attempt to offer them some sort of truth. Doesn't even make sense when I say it that way, does it? No. You can't lie to tell the truth. Now, I need to address another group of people. And I never thought I would have to say this about this group of people. They're often overlooked when we think about people willing to deceive others. But did you realize that missionaries are willing to deceive others? Now, I have also said on this show that my wife was raised on a tropical island by white missionaries, right? They happened to be her parents, but that's what it was. So I'm kind of treading on some thin ice when I say these things here, because you got to kind of be careful when you talk about this stuff, especially when it concerns family. When I started looking at this, and what I found really surprised me. There's actually a group called Mission to the World. It was founded in 1973 by a very liberal group they basically pulled out of the Presbyterian Church. Something that they have on their website, I'm going to get you to read this. This actually comes from Mission to the World website, and it's current. I got this just a little while ago.
Misleading behavior may not be desirable, but in many cases it might be necessary behavior for missionaries who must disguise themselves in order to more efficiently proclaim the gospel and live in cultures that are hostile to their God-honoring purpose. Too many lying is a black and white issue. However, lived and practiced in an imperfect world surrounded by sinful humans, missionaries must use situational ethics and a Christ-centered heart to determine if their words or actions bring greater glory or dishonor to God.
Okay. Now, this comes just about 2 paragraphs after they attempt to justify deception with scriptures. And they actually use the example of the Hebrew midwives who would lie to the Egyptians about the birth of the Hebrew children. They also use the example about Joshua sending the spies into the land, and then, of course, Rahab hiding them. Misrepresenting intention on a visa, such as saying, no, I'm not going into your country as a missionary, I'm going into your country as a teacher. I'm not going into your country as a missionary, I'm a businessman traveling on vacation. I'm not going into your country as a missionary, I'm going into your country as something other than what you're going as, is misrepresentation, and it is a federal offense to lie on a passport visa. We don't appreciate it when people come into this country under false pretenses. Is it any wonder that people going into other countries under false pretenses are treated harshly? I think not. This ought to send up all kinds of red flags. It really should. Am I the only one that gets a little upset when people who are supposed to be presenting Scripture do so in a way that's less than honest? You know what? If you need to lie about speaking the gospel, are you really telling the gospel that was once delivered to the saints? Or are you trying to sell something that's twisted to fit your own agenda? If if that's what's going on, well, then you are a businessman, right? Because you're there for the money. You're not there for the Almighty. You're not there for the glory of God. You're there for you. Now, what really got me started on this, I knew I had to address it tonight, was a story from the Israeli National News. It actually identifies a group that many of you are probably familiar with, okay? It identifies First Fruits of Zion as being behind a huge missionary scandal, all right? Let me bring this up, and I'm going to read just a part of what's going on here. And this is in Israeli National News, or Eretz Sheva, 2 days ago. And it begins, a stranger visiting the Tzemach David Synagogue and Study Hall in Jerusalem would never imagine that the innocent-looking facility was actually a training center for Christian missionaries in how to conduct themselves as religious Jews. A wide-ranging probe by Yad L'Chaim revealed that Tzemach David is the tip of the iceberg in the missionaries' efforts to earn the trust of Israeli public through deceit and manipulation. Tzemach David is housed in a building called the Bram Center after Abram Bram Pojak, a pioneering missionary in Israel. The study hall is run by an organization called First Fruits of Zion that was established in the United States in 1992 with the central aim of presenting Christianity as Judaism. Let me say that again. Its central aim is presenting Christianity as Judaism and conducting intensive activities to get Jews to convert. It is a publication organization that speaks to the mission to restore the original faith and kingdom message to the Jewish, and they just use the letter J for Jesus there because they don't subscribe to that name at all. Basically, what they are doing is they're lying, flat out. I'm not going to pull any punches here. I actually sent an email to First Fruits of Zion, and I inquired. I said, look, this story broke. I have a lot of people that listen to me. I have a lot of people that utilize your material. And to be quite honest, I've used some of it in the past. You know, I know a lot of people that have used this material in the past. I said, please tell me, you know, what is your official position on this? Do you have a response to this? And I have not heard anything since. Other than when you send them an email, you get an automated response that says, yes, we've got your email. Somebody will get back with you as soon as possible. I have not received anything yet. Their website lacks any information that addresses this. They're being accused of a lot of things in that article. They're being accused of a lot of things in that article. Basically, deception, manipulation, and there's going to be a lot of people that, First Fruits of Zion actually offers tours in Israel. They are not going to be allowed to do that anymore because this stops everything for them. They may have, a reasonable reason for the deception and damage that they've caused. But until they come forth and say what that reason is, until they say, yes, we knew this was happening, because you don't do that without them knowing. You don't, let's face it, they were paying the bills, okay? Until they come forth and they give us a reasonable explanation of what's going on and why they were doing what they were doing, why they chose this path of deception and manipulation. Until that happens, I can't recommend anyone donate to them. I can't recommend anyone use their material. If you have a tour lined up through that organization, you may want to consider getting different, or making different reservations. You may want to consider getting a refund because those tours are not cheap. Now, these are strong words. Yes, I know. And Meyer and I have had conversation with Jewish people, and they are often the ones who actually ask us our opinion and how we see Yeshua, right?
Right.
We have been in a shopping mall for over an hour with the Jewish folks talking about this. And it's also why I have said often right in this podcast that it's easier for me and you to talk about to talk about Jesus to a Jewish person than it is for us to talk about Yeshua to a Christian.
Yes.
The reason for that is they already know what's going on. They know the story. They know what's happening. They've had, and I need to be careful how I say this, the name Yeshua simply means that Jehovah is salvation, right?
Right.
They've had that for a very, very long time. When Moses stood at the banks of the Red Sea and he said, behold, today you will see Yeshua T, your salvation. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's not Yeshua T, Yeshua Taka, or however that's conjugated. Same thing. You will see that Jehovah is your salvation. You see, we like to, especially English-only speakers, like to confuse the name and what it means and the person, and they use it out of place, and they use it out of place often. presenting to the Bible as it is written is the most effective way to bring people into the kingdom of God. You're not trying to create church members. If you go into the mission field trying to create church members, that's not for the glory of the Almighty. I don't know any Jewish person who would deny you attempting to bring glory to the Father. Don't know any. But I know a lot of them who can recognize when you're trying to either do it for monetary reasons or you're trying to do it to make yourself look good.
Yes.
When you're doing it that way, you deserve exactly what First Fruits of Zion is getting right now. Absolutely. We have got to learn to leave our traditions and our doctrines behind and embrace the Creator for who and what He truly is. Only by living the way that we're designed to live can that be accomplished. Following the Creator's instructions is always the best way to do that. When we look deep into the Bible, we find where people have been less than forthcoming with the truth. It is always, now I'm talking about the righteous people here, okay? It's always for the preservation of life. Not to gain church members, not to increase your budget, but to save physical lives in that moment. Abraham was terrified that something was going to happen to him. And what did he tell Abimelech? Yeah, Sarah's my sister. Well, he didn't lie to it. Sarah was his sister, right? He didn't lie. He just left out the part where they were married. And it was actually the Almighty Himself who showed Abimelech what was going on. And he says, Abram, you're trying to kill me. Abram says, no, I'm trying for you not to kill me. You've got to learn to read this stuff for what it really, really says. He's trying to preserve his own skin, just like Peter. Peter was trying to save his hide. Abram was convinced Abimelech was going to kill him if, he wanted to be with Sarah and it wouldn't have worked. Even, think about when Joshua sent the spies in, right? Rahab hides the spies because if they'd have been found, they would have been killed. Samuel just knew that Saul was going to kill him if he anointed David. And God said, here, take a red heifer with you. Say you're going to sacrifice. It was preservation of life. They were terrified. They were skilled. In the moment, they needed a workaround. Now, if a missionary is in a foreign country and they get in trouble, can they leave out some things so that they can preserve life? Yeah. If in the United States, if you find yourself in a position where you're in a bank or in a store that's being robbed, somebody points a gun at your head, says, do you have any valuables? And you say no. Well, is that preservation of life? No. But if they point a gun at your head and say, is there anybody else hiding in here? And you say no. Well, that's preservation of life. You have to be able to understand what you're doing. Now, the people listening around the world, they understand this. Most of them understand this. If you can't present the Creator of the universe to someone in a sincere manner, why should they believe you? You're not giving them any reason to believe a word you're saying. Now, I have mentioned before, there's a small group of people living in an area where they cannot openly even speak about God. And yet, they are converting ISIS fighters. And they're not doing this because they're talking them to death. They're not knocking on their door and saying, can I tell you about Jesus? That's not how they're doing it. They're doing it because in their situation, they're living the way they were designed to live, the best way they know how. They're not leaving that area, not because they don't have the opportunity to leave, but they're staying there because they believe they're winning. That's faith. They're not, are they completely honest all the time? I don't know. I've never talked to them. I hear about them from time to time. But here's the thing. In their eyes, they're winning. And you know what? The few really hardcore ISIS fighters that they brought out of that lifestyle into a lifestyle that actually walks and does things that the Almighty approves of, well, if you measure it that way, they are winning, right? If you measure it that way, they really are winning. When missionaries lie to spread their gospel, not the gospel that was once delivered to the saints, but their own personal agenda. And then, maybe their next time they see these folks, they're reading out of Matthew 5. And they get to verse 37. It says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. How little respect do they have for the people they're speaking to? How much more disregard can you have for the word of the Creator? If you have to lie to tell the truth, wait a minute. Can you? I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible. And then to have an entire group who are sending people out, and it says, misleading behavior may not be desirable? Wait a minute. And you have to, I'll be honest with you, I really had a hard time getting through that web page looking. I knew there was going to be something in there that I could find after I started reading it. But it's tough to read because they encourage lying on federal documents, U.S. federal documents, U.S. citizens lying on federal documents. They wouldn't have, and yet these are the same people who claim to be, some of these evangelical Christians who really get upset when people come into the United States under false pretenses. There's no excuse for that kind of behavior. You can't give me, an excuse is a reason for failure, right? There is no way you can give me a legitimate reason that you failed to be completely upfront right there. You want to get into those places, you make friends. You get invited. Once you're invited, that's an open door. Are you going to be able to stay there and live there? Probably not. You're going to have to go back and forth. It's going to be tough. Yeah. But I need you to think, because I know there's a lot of people that listen to me that support various missionary types. You need to be really, really careful who you're supporting and what message they are sending out. Are they actually delivering repent for the kingdom of heaven is at hand like Yeshua did? Or are they giving some denominational doctrine stuff that doesn't even match what's written in their Bible that they're trying to promote? They claim they want to promote it, but their actions say they disregard it. You need to figure out who you're going to support in all of that. You really do. It's just kind of sad that we have to have this kind of news coming out of places. When we choose to be deceived, when we choose to deceive people, we ourselves, chances are, have been deceived. Because most of these folks don't know what the real gospel is. All they're doing is parroting back something that they were taught maybe in seminary, maybe in a Bible college somewhere. And it's amazing how many theology professors no longer believe the things they're teaching. Let me say that again. It's amazing the number of theology professors who do not believe what they're teaching their students. Deception does have a place in the world. Confusion has a place in the world. But it's not when you're being upfront with people. Not about something this important. If you think you have to lie to tell the truth, chances are you're going about it all wrong. And I really, really hope that First Fruits of Zion has the opportunity to see this as a growing experience, because I doubt anybody associated with that organization will ever be allowed back into Israel. And they really shouldn't be allowed back into anybody's checkbook for a long time. I can come down off my high horse now. And the reason is, now let's look at something even more important. Are you presenting the Bible to others as it's written, or are you trying to sell your own traditions? Are you trying to sell your own doctrine? Are you living the way your Creator designed you to live? If you want to make sure, there is a place you can check it out. If you go to GiveGod90.com, it's free. Doesn't cost you a nickel to check me out, unless you buy the books. I charge for them, right?
Right.
Because we got to eat too, right?
Yes.
But what's on Give God 90 is there for you. It's free. It's just like these podcasts. They're free. Somebody else paid for them, so you don't have to. So now, go check it out. Are you living the way the Almighty designed you to live? Are you waking up every day in prayer? Are you going to bed every night in prayer? Are you including the Almighty in everything you're doing, good and bad? Uh-oh. I just danced on somebody's toes, didn't I? There's a lot of ways that we think we have the Almighty's permission to do things. But deception, manipulation, outright lying to people to get whatever recognition, whatever money, whatever you think you're going to get out of it, that's not it. So, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Absolutely. We appreciate each and every one of you. I would appreciate this one being shared far and wide, because, I'm already on the hit list from the Catholic Church. I might as well be on the hit list from First Fruits too. Till Thursday, everyone. Have a blessed week. Till Monday.